where he suffered and died, truly walking in his footsteps and really listening to and witnessing the Bible come alive for myself and my classmates, my seminary classmates. And so I remember we were talking one night, and we're just like, man, I hope this trip is something that we can bring into our priesthood, not just for the first few years, but really for the rest of our lives. I hope that even 20 years from now, we look back on that trip and we thank God that we had the opportunity to even go to his holy land, to be able to experience what he saw, and had the opportunity to make that a part of our very lives as priests. And then the day came that we went up Mount Tabor, which is the Mount of the Transfiguration. That mountain, I remember, not just for the beautiful church that was on the top of the mountain, but how you got up the mountain. It was like going up the Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. It was like zigzags everywhere. You can take your Storm Runners, you can take your Fahrenheits. Wild Mouse is the most terrifying ride at Hershey Park, by far. But I remember getting up there, and it was almost like you had to earn your way to get up there. I remember thinking that. Like, it was something where it was no surprise it was not just a straight hill or just, straight up. You had to make your way up to the mountain. And that's what we hear about in our gospel today. Now, last week, we heard that Satan led Jesus up a mountain to tempt him. This week, Jesus leads 3 of his closest apostles, Peter, James, and John, up a mountain. For what? They have no idea. Now, Peter, James, and John are kind of like Jesus' inner circle. For whatever reason, maybe because they were the first called, that they were the first chosen disciples, Jesus has chosen them to be with him, and some private miracles that are just for their eyes and their eyes alone. And it's for their opportunity to learn and see him in a different way than the other apostles. Doesn't mean he loves them more or the others less. It's just something that he wanted them to experience with him. So as we hear, there's nothing else or no one else around them in this moment. So they know that whatever is about to happen is just for their eyes and their eyes alone. And then it happens. Jesus transfigures. He transforms in front of them. Said his clothes become as dazzling as white, as bright as the sun. So much so, you ever try and look at the sun, you have to immediately turn away. Well, this is looking at the literal Son of God. Because in this moment, Jesus is revealing to Peter, James, and John who he truly is. Now, up to this point, Peter has made his great confession that he knows that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, the promised Son of God. So now they're looking at him fully and truly, not just as a great teacher, but as a great healer, but someone who is not holding anything back from them in this moment, truly revealing himself fully in his divinity and his God-given identity, being one with his Father. For us, when we look to reveal ourselves to Jesus, we have the temptation to hold back, because we don't want Jesus to see all of us. A lot of times we want Jesus to see only a little bit of us or some of us, or even most of us. And Jesus looks at us and says, I don't want to see just a little bit of you. I don't even want to see most of you. I want to see all of you. I want to see you and I want to hear you. I want you to reveal yourself to me when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're joyful, when you're frustrated, when you're furious, whatever you're feeling. Because I want to see the one that was made in my Father's image. I want to see the one that was made in his likeness. That's who I want to see. That's who I want. That's whom I want to reveal themselves to me. But we hold back. Why do we hold back? Because it's scary. It's overwhelming to think that God knows us more than we know ourselves, that he loves us more than we love ourselves. But he still holds nothing back from us. He still gives us the opportunity each and every day to go to him. And that is a gift that we should never take for granted. That is something that he has given us, that we should always be ready, willing, and able to do everything we can and anything we can to make ourselves known to him in any way that we can, not only through our actions, not only through our words, but especially through our actions. Now, while this is happening, we hear there are two people next to Jesus. So Jesus has some company next to him. On one side, you have Moses. Moses was such an important figure in Jewish history because not only did he lead the Israelites out of slavery into the promised land, but he was long believed, it is still believed, that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, known as the Torah. So he was so highly regarded that the people thought there's no one that could be greater or bigger than Moses. There is no one that could be more important than Moses. There is no prophet that could even come close to Moses. But here, Jesus identifies himself as not as a prophet, but the fulfillment of the prophets. And then on the other side, you have Elijah. Elijah represents all the prophets who came before Jesus, those who were chosen by God to go to a person or a group of people to talk usually about God warning them that if they didn't turn from what they were doing, they would suffer much hardship in their lives. They would suffer a lot of consequences if they kept doing what they're doing or they kept going down the path that they were going on. And sometimes the people repented. A lot of times they just scoffed at the prophets and just looked at them as crazy men. But everything the prophets foretold them actually came true. So Elijah, being one of the most important prophets, represents all the prophets as a whole. But here, Jesus identifies himself as not just a prophet, or I say he is not a prophet. He is the fulfillment of the prophets. He is the one that the prophets foretold in their letters. Not just Elijah, but Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, John the Baptist being his own cousin, the last prophet. Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. It says elsewhere in the Gospels, Jesus say, I have not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. For us, we can be fulfilled by Jesus because we have the amazing opportunity, we have the amazing gift to come to Mass and let him fill us with the gift of his Eucharist so that we may be full in him in a spiritual way. Allow him to enter into our lives through the revelation of ourselves that we give to him. Now, while all this is happening, the scene that always gets me, because we're always focused on Jesus in this moment, because you can just imagine what this would be like in this moment. But no one really mentions what Peter, James, and John are going through in this moment. Because the absolute shock, fear, and amazement that must have been on their faces, it's even for me hard to imagine to this day what that must have been like. To the point that Peter literally goes, let's see, tents, yes, tents, okay. How about we set up tents? Tents. James and John, can you help me here? Right? Just nothing said. But it's no surprise that Peter is the one that's talking because he has already made this great confession. Jesus has already chosen him to be the rock by which the church will be built on. So Peter is going to have to realize, and he's realizing in this moment, that it is through him that people will see Jesus. He will have to reveal Jesus to people like James and John, like the other apostles in their own way. But Peter will be the leader. He will set the tone. He will be the witness to the other 11 apostles. And so for us, we always have to know and understand that Jesus never once holds back from us. Everything he has given us has been with the most honesty and truth, but also with love. So why would we ever want to hold ourselves back from him? Why would we ever think about not giving ourselves to him totally or revealing ourselves to him in any way that we can? I encourage all of you during this season of Lent to reveal yourself to Jesus all the more. And don't hold back. Give yourself everything you have to him each and every day. Not just during these 40 days, but every day of your lives. but especially during these 40 days, as you reveal yourself to Jesus, may he reveal himself to you all the more as he leads you to the glory of the Easter resurrection. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.